Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with tips on critical listening. And today we're tackling a particularly thorny issue. What is interpretation? Why does it matter? Why do classical music people collect 300 versions of the same piece of music? I mean, are they really all that different? How do we think about the fact that people are playing the same things over and over and over again? And I think maybe the best way to go about it is to use an analogy with food, because I love food, as you can see. And I love food analogies. Oh, yes, because somehow if you can taste something, then you understand it more viscerally than the more somewhat vaporous idea of just hearing it. I don't know. I mean, I think hearing is a wonderful thing, but there's some ways, some of our other senses have more immediacy in terms of our acceptance or revulsion to the object in question. So let's just talk about, well, interpretation is a condiment. Yes. Now, we all love condiments, right? There's ketchup, there's mustard, there's relish, there's, Worcestershire sauce, all kinds of stuff you could throw on things. And, condiments are important because without them, our food would be bland and uninteresting and always the same. But an interpretation is just that. It's an addition to the basic text. In music, there is no performance that is not interpreted. In other words, the basic text, it doesn't exist without interpretation, whereas, of course, you can make a steak without a condiment. Although without salt, you got to wonder, right? I mean, the food can exist, but in music, it doesn't. It exists in some sort of, imaginary realm, non-intangible realm, because you have to perform it. And in the act of performing, you are interpreting. So it's not a perfect analogy, but it works nonetheless. So let's take a typical condiment and see where that leads us. The condiment in question is, yes, Sriracha. Hot sauce, Sriracha. Now, basic Sriracha is actually, let's see how far we can stretch this thing. You have the basic musical text. You have the basic Sriracha. Now, Sriracha, as we know it, is actually used most commonly in Vietnamese cuisine, but it's a Thai condiment. And the product that we know is American. This stuff, with the Vietnamese, and the rooster on the thing, and is actually Hoi Fong Foods, is in Irwindale, California. And Sriracha is an American invention that's caught on and crazily the world over. It has, but particularly in the U.S., and I'm here, so I'm doing sort of the U.S. analogy. Now, the ingredients in Sriracha are, chilies, sugar, salt, garlic, vinegar, acetic acid, potassium sorbate, and sodium benzoate as preservatives, and xanthan gum. Well, xanthan gum makes it a little thicker. It thickens the sauce. But, it's delicious stuff. It's marvelous, and it's spicy, and it goes on all kinds of foods, and people just love it. It's absolutely marvelous. But this is your basic Sriracha. All right? Now, the basic Sriracha is actually a newer version of a more traditional thing. And that's one of the things that makes this such a fascinating analogy. So what do we have for our musical equivalent of Sriracha? Well, it's very popular. It's the go-to thing. It's the brand name, the most recognized. And so let's take Beethoven cycles. We're talking about Beethoven cycles. We have George Szell and the Cleveland Orchestra. He is our Sriracha. That is, the iconic brand. The one that's going to really set the standard for all the other things and serve as a source of comparison, a reference, if you want to call it that, although we have another series of videos about reference recordings, which means something very specific. But yes, we can use this as our version of reference. All right? You've got Beethoven symphonies done a certain way, according to a certain recipe, which is a modern reinterpretation of something quite a bit older, because the Beethoven symphonies, as you know, were composed in the early 1800s, most of them. And so you're talking about, obviously, a newer version in a handy plastic squeeze bottle of what the original was. And here it is, and it's marvelous, and everyone likes it. It's what we've all come to know and understand. Now, because this is the iconic standard, there are many versions of the traditional version, the traditional new modern interpretation. You can do a lot of things with a piece of music. You can play it faster, slower, bigger forces, smaller forces, louder, softer, all kinds of stuff. All kinds of stuff. So let's take someone else's interpretation. Otto Klemperer. Now, Otto Klemperer was a very personal conductor. I mean, they were in their way, the great ones. He had very particular timbral preferences. Forward balanced woodwinds, really clearly etched bass lines, sometimes very slow tempos. It was all a very, very personal view of the music, but it was nonetheless within the basic framework of the modern version of the traditional ancient source, the music. So Klemperer is probably close to this one. Weak Knees gochujang sriracha. Now, gochujang is Korean hot sauce. I mean, it's a fermented chili hot sauce paste thing. And this sriracha is based on that. So it is a sriracha, but it has its own particular unique elements, in this case coming from Korea, and made in Brooklyn. Yes, it's made in Brooklyn, which really sort of, I think, serves Klemperer particularly well. He has his own personal ingredients, but he was made in Hamburg or Germany somewhere, and actually recorded in the UK with an English orchestra. So he is definitely our gochujang sriracha. And whether you like the regular one, the Zell, or the gochujang Korean version, the Klemperer, well, that's going to be your choice. You have to taste. Just like we have to listen. You must taste and decide whether you like it or whether you like both. And they simply go better with different foods. This is good with fish. This is good with steak. I mean, it all depends, right? So after Klemperer, we have, oh yes, of course, we have some of the more unctuous, rich, sort of deluxe-y, hoity-toity interpretations. Karajan. Karajan is very heavy on strings. He never particularly cared for woodwinds. He liked extreme legato, incredible richness of sonority, blended sonorities. And for that we have truffe. Yes, truffled sriracha. Sriracha with, well, this is just called hot sauce. They wouldn't devalue themselves by calling themselves sriracha like other srirachas. This is truffle essence mixed with hot sauce. It's quite spicy. It's tangy and very, very rich, just like Karajan's performances. Now, you may find this too rich. You may find it over the top. You might find it oily and greasy and unctuous and slimy and all of those things. Or you may just love it because it's tasty as hell. I mean, you've got your choice. And that's the fun of it. So that's Karajan. Then we have a version which I think is a wonderful modern reinterpretation of the modern standard. Let's put it that way. Simply splendid performance, but a keen analytical eye and a fresh view of the traditional object. And for me, that would be Markevich, especially in the Fifth Symphony, which is simply amazing here. It's got all of the original elements, but he gets to them in a different way, with a fully modern orchestra, big sound, a French orchestra with its own unique tang, its own spice, its own unique timbral resources. And for that, we have here, Seed Ranch Thai green hot sauce. Now, this is Thai inspired. So that means we're talking about the roots of Sriracha, but this is a fully modern reinterpretation of the concept. And it contains, let's see what it contains. It has, white vinegar, water, lime juice, green Thai chilies, garlic, cilantro, shallots, lemongrass, basil, salt, coconut flakes, coconut sugar, coriander, cumin, white pepper, and something else I can't even pronounce, cognac. I don't even know what that is. Cognac or something like that. Okay, fine. Whatever that last thing is, I hope it doesn't kill me. It's a delicious, invigorating view of a traditional object. And that's what Markevich's interpretations are. They are invigorating views by a contemporary composer originally and a brilliant, brilliant musical mind of a very traditional object, and well worth having. And they go well with just about everything, just like this does. I had it on egg rolls the other night. It was just fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. Then, well, there are some people who are tired, sick to death of all of these modern versions of the original object, and they seek to return to the basic, authentic thing to the extent possible. Again, it has to be interpreted. There will always be interpreted. There will always be the condiment there. But the idea is to try and recreate the original thing. Now, Sriracha actually comes from a Thai town called Sriracha or something like that. And it was supposedly, the sauce was invented by some lady in the 1930s or something. I don't know. But in any case, the original does exist. And here it is. This is Sriracha Panich chili sauce that actually comes from Thailand. And the ingredients are rather simple. They're rather more austere. You know, it consists of spur chili, let's see, water, sugar, garlic, salt, and vinegar, acetic acid, as they put it in Thai. You have to shake it before use, and you need to refrigerate it after opening because it doesn't have any preservatives. So where we have the period instrument people, you've got John Eliot Gardner with the Orchestre Révolutionnaire et Romantique, pompous name, ridiculous, but that's okay, doing a Beethoven cycle in what he takes to be as authentic a way as Beethoven himself would have recognized. He claims to be, the original Sriracha. And, you know, I mean, is he or isn't he? I don't know, because we weren't there in the 1930s when, you know, whatever that lady was invented her own Sriracha. This is, again, a modern view of the traditional object, as are all period instrument performances. Modern views that come handily packaged in nice glass bottles with, you know, plastic sealer things to preserve their freshness. Oh, yes. I mean, to claim that this is the authentic thing is, of course, silly. And nobody believes it, but you may very well love the original, because the original is delicious and tasty, and its very simplicity is a form of elegance and versatility in its use. So there you go. Modern, early, authentic Sriracha. And of course, having done this with authentic instruments and all that, there are performances that take the authentic doctrines, the authentic approach, and they play it with modern instruments, but with their own interpretive Phillips, of course. And, you know, we've got so many of those, it's impossible. But here's a recent one. Adam Fisher with the Danish Chamber Orchestra, modern instruments, but the approach is as authentic as he could possibly make it. And there is the Sriracha equivalent of that. We have the other major Thai brand, Shark brand. There's a shark on here. Up there it is. See the shark? The Shark brand. It's fabulous. Now, the Shark brand is basically the same ingredients, but with some extras. We have here, let's see, what else do we have? You see, you have all the same things: chili, water, sugar, garlic, salt, vinegar, and then sodium benzoate and a little xanthan gum to thicken the thing. And that's exactly what you get here. You get sodium benzoate and xanthan gum because it makes the performances moderner, sort of thicker, whatever. Yes, you see what I mean? So there's an equivalent to all of these things in the world of Sriracha. And, you know, the point I want to make with this, I keep have to keep emphasizing is that without the condiments, without the interpretation, the music is just not worth hearing. You must hear it interpreted. We have no choice. We have absolutely no choice. Otherwise, it has no spice, no flavor, no character. And that's what we're looking for in a performance. That's all interpretation is character, added character, or character as understood by the people who are performing the music, and which brings something of themselves. But of course, you can go a little crazy. You can go too far. You can add random elements that seem to make very little sense and that create a strange farrago of tones. People like Herman Scherchen, who was absolutely out of his mind, fascinatingly. So you may love it because it's weird, but they do strange and seemingly random things within the basic concept. And for that, we have this thing, Seed Ranch Umami Reserve Hot Sauce. Now, this thing is far away from Sriracha. The only thing it has in common with Sriracha is that it is a hot sauce. It's definitely a hot sauce. It's conceptually sort of the same, just as a lot of Scherchen's interpretations, or Theodor Korenz's, or Stokowski, or a lot of these crazy people who take a piece of music and then they twist it about like putty just to see what comes out. And this stuff has, I need my magnifying glass for this one. This stuff has, are you ready? Oh my goodness. Genetically modified, organic, not modified, tamari soy sauce, gluten-free, pardon me, it's GF, gluten-free tamari, water, olive oil, tomato paste, capers, dried olives, porcini mushrooms, chocolate habanero pepper, shiitake mushrooms, seaweed, garlic, red miso, balsamic vinegar, white vinegar, chipotle, carrots, dates, sesame oil, and cumin. Whoa! It's like everything but the kitchen sink. It's stuff that has absolutely nothing to do with good old traditional Sriracha. It's a unique creation with a loose basis in the authentic object that all of these others in some way, the truths, the sharks, the gochujang, the Thai greens thing here, the original Sriracha Panich emulate the original Sriracha, the modern interpretation of the ancient object. And that is where we are. And this, my friends, is what interpretation is. It's nothing but condiments, delicious, wonderful condiments. And you can use them any way you want to use them. There's an interpretation for every taste, for every occasion. Some you may like more than others. Some you may prefer with certain recipes and when you're feeling a certain way. But think of it that way. Don't let the idea confuse you. It's not confusing. It's not confusing at all. It's all about flavor. So keep on listening, friends. Thank you so much for joining me, and take care. And by the way, get some of these Srirachas. They're delicious, absolutely delicious, and so much fun to play with them, to make comparisons. Take care.